Today's video is another intensive one, and we are talking about the element fire. So fire is all about expression and behavior. Sterling, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Yes, fire is all about expression and behavior. That's exactly what it amounts to. In three-dimensional reality, fire is expression. It's how you express anything and all things. Where air is interaction, water is sensitivity, earth is substance, fire is expression, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today. It is also about behavior. Okay? It's one of the reasons that the chakras are a part of the fire, and we'll get into that a little later, but it's because it's how they behave. Okay? And your chakras control how you behave. And animal totems control how your chakras behave. So when we start getting into those and all the breakdowns, you're going to start to understand how big expression is in everyone's life. Okay? Now, that's three-dimensional reality. Okay? We're going to start with fire in one-dimensional reality. Fire in one-dimensional reality is heat. And that's all it is. It is heat.
Okay.
Existing in two-dimensional reality, it becomes motion, and in physics, heat is motion. Okay. And why is that? Well, what does heat do to molecules? It gets them moving.
Yeah.
It agitates it. Okay. And it causes them to move, so it causes motion. That's why heat is motion. Motion, two-dimensionally, breaks down into momentum and direction. Okay? Those are three-dimensional properties that exist in two dimensions, okay, which exist in three dimensions. Because fire itself, in two-dimensional reality, are just two powers. One being proper to itself, the other is a means to transform into the next element. So fire is hot as proper to it, and it is dry as a means to transform into the next element. The next element being earth, because earth is dry and cold.
Okay.
And it doesn't go backwards, it only goes one direction. The cycles only work one way. Okay? That's what it is in two-dimensional reality. Okay? Now when we get into three-dimensional reality, this is where the refraction happens. Okay? So reflectively, two powers. When it refracts off the surface of the soul of the world, the energy does from the spirit of the world, this is what it does as far as fire is concerned. It turns it into personal, creative, and spiritual. Okay? Breaks it into three forms. Because there's an expression, what we call Aries then becomes personal expression, what we call Leo becomes creative expression, and what we call Sagittarius becomes spiritual expression.
Okay.
Okay? Now, you and I have gone over this a couple of times.
Right, yes.
Okay?
Yep.
But we really haven't gotten really in depth with it. And now we're going to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, the biggest thing as far as fire is concerned is understanding how you express in a personal way. Okay? How you create things in your expression and express it out. Okay? Any form, whether that's dance, karate, singing, any type of expression. Okay? That is creative in any way. It could even be writing a book. All of those things being expressed are fire. That's all fire energy. Okay?
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Sagittarius is spiritual expression.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Ruled by Jupiter, and the reason I bring that up is because the aura is a product of spiritual expression. So the aura is a product of Sagittarius and Jupiter. Okay? And what does Jupiter do?
That's
Jupiter is how we
expansion.
expand.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's exactly what your auric field does to all of the color vibrations. It expands it out into this giant magnetic field. Okay? And that is ruled by fire. And it's ruled by Sagittarius. Okay? That's the important part of fire, as far as this is concerned. Okay? Now, fire is also a product, there's also another product of fire, and that is visualization.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Visualization is a product of fire. Yes, it has to do with the other elements, but the most important part of visualization, okay, is image creation, visualizing, being able to close your eyes and visualize something, okay, and see it, and see the colors, and see how they mix, and see how they vibrate, and see the vibrancy and the brilliance of them, even when you're working on somebody, in like, let's say, a healing modality, you know, because you've talked about
Right,
healing's
yes,
important to you.
yeah.
So when you're working on healing someone, you need to be able to see all the chakras, the colors of the chakras, okay, the motion of the chakras, again, fire, and then the colors of the chakra, again, fire, because it has to do with sight.
Right.
Essentially, that's the most important part of, as far as colors are concerned. So if something is really mucked up and not brilliant, okay, you know that color is an issue. That color reverts back to a chakra, and that chakra reverts back to energies, and so you know which energies you need to start working on. Okay, and you're going to find that a lot. You're not going to find in most people. I haven't found it in anybody at this point that there's only one chakra that's got issues. Usually, if one I mean, everybody has healing that needs to happen in one way, form, or another. It's just the way that life works.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but that's what you're looking for, and then it's a matter of determining which one's which. Okay.
Right.
Okay. But you're utilizing fire the entire time you're working chakras,
Mm-hmm.
and the entire time you're working colors. Okay, and the entire time you're working with the aura. Okay, and most people I don't think realize that. And you know, and when you're dealing with energy itself, you're dealing essentially with fire at the top, and then subcategorically it just breaks down.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Signs. Same thing with planets. There are planets that are essentially fire planets, like
Mhm.
Mars, and you know, the sun, even though it's not a planet, it's what we call a light. But in the horoscope, they call it a planet. So
Right.
most people understand that. However, all those planets, all that energy is inherently Earth because they're objects.
Right.
Okay, but subcategorically they break down. So do the chakras. So do colors. Okay, everything breaks down back into the elements. Now we're dealing primarily with fire, but you're going to see that even when you're talking about different ones, you have to talk about certain other elements at the same time,
Right.
as far as it goes. However, let's talk about Aries. Okay, everybody knows, or generally most people know, have heard of Aries, the sign of Aries. Most people go, "Oh God, no," okay, because it's associated with Mars and associated with aggression and violence and all that. Well,
I mean, yeah,
there's nothing wrong with Aries, because Aries in itself is your drive.
Right.
Okay, it is your passion. It is not your desire. Desire is water. You feel desire. You express passion. Okay, so without personal expression, you never do anything.
Right.
You just sit there. You don't know what's different from you and anybody else. Okay? It is the I am. It is where children start reaching out, start putting things in their mouth, and they start moving around, and they start finding out the difference between them and everything else in the world. Okay? It is the I am. Okay? And again, rules the first house. So the first house is ruled by fire, because it's ruled by Aries and personal expression. Okay? And it's also ruled by Mars. Okay, so that's what you're looking at. Now,
Okay.
personal expression is how you personally express anything. Ideas, even though ideas are air, okay? Movement, okay? Anything that determines who you are as a person.
Mm-hmm.
That's different from anybody else in the world. That's Aries moving in. Now, one issue with Aries is that Aries doesn't think a lot, it just expresses. So, problems can be that Aries can come in and the energy will just destroy everything and burn it. Because it's speaking its truth.
Mm-hmm.
Problem being, let's say you have, like me, you have your moon in Aries. Okay? So your emotions are all like that. Okay? When I was younger, I could just walk in and go, damn, 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 to everybody in a room. And they would look at me like, why would you even say that to us? Or me. Oh my God. It's like, why? It was the truth. And of course, my son's Sagittarius, and we're all about truth with a capital T,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you got those combining together, and it just bloom. The problem is that when Aries does that, it's not thinking about the effect it's going to have
Right.
on what it's doing. It's just thinking, yeah, I need to express this now. You need to express yourself. Let these people know what you think and how you feel. And again, you can lay waste to everything. So I have to think before I start speaking to people and expressing what I think. Okay? Because just because I think something does not, number one, make it truth. And because it might be truth to me doesn't mean it's truth to you. And number two, sometimes it's none of my business, especially if it has to do with something with somebody else. You know, because you can have the tendency of walking in and going, well, you have to do this and you need to do this, and you start kind of telling people what they have to do, and you come off as a bully, because it is bullying energy. But at the same time, most of the time, a lot of it doesn't need to be said, and that's what we learn as we grow.
Right.
Okay? They say kids are too honest. You know,
Yes, yeah.
you see all those little weird meme videos about, you know, well, Mom, you're fat. And so, you know, that's their Aries coming out going, well, she is.
Oh yeah, that old show, you know.
Yes, but you
kids
don't
say
need
the
to.
darndest things.
Yes, same thing. Okay? Because they haven't learned to control it.
Right.
Okay? And learning to control Aries is very important. Okay? And again, we talked about visualization. So all of the fundamental exercises are inherently going to be a part of fire.
Right.
Because the entire goal of that is visualization at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, when you go through sense enhancement, what you're looking for as far as fire is concerned are the sight enhancements. Okay? And it doesn't mean making yourself 20/20 vision or 20/20, what is it, 20/22 or 20, there's one that's supposed to be better, 20/30 or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. It's not, has nothing to do with that. It's walking in and seeing things in a different way. So the first exercise you do for sense enhancement is you walk into a room, you look left to right, and all you look for are shapes. Okay? There's rectangles, there's squares, there's circles, there's triangles. Okay? And then you get more advanced as you go along. Cylinders. Okay? Different forms, different types of things. And a lot of artists do that. And they just inherently do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watch somebody who starts to draw, a lot of the times that's how they start. They just start with simple shapes. And then all of a sudden they start forming these wonderful pictures out of it. But they start with shapes to begin with. Because
Okay.
that's what they need to do to process it,
Right.
to be able to control it. Okay? So you look for shapes, okay, and differing shapes. Then, once you've done a few exercises like that, and are pretty good at it, because what you're going to do is you're going to leave the room. You're going to go in. You're either going to write down or you're going to draw what you saw. And then you come back in and see what you missed. And a lot of people are completely blown away by stuff they miss, because they'll get details on these little things. And then there'll be like a giant circle on the wall that they missed. And it's like, well, how would you miss that? Or the fact that the wall was a square or a rectangle. And it's like, dude. Or they don't get any of the doorknobs. I mean, there's a lot of things that your brain just filters out. And again, you're teaching your brain not to do that anymore. Pick up what I want. And stop filtering out things that you don't find important, because I might.
Right.
Okay? The second thing you're going to do is you're going to go into a room and you're going to create shading by turning on and off lamps. Okay? So you walk into a room, you find out where the shadows are. Okay? Same thing. You go back, come back in and see it. Then you're going to have somebody go in and turn on different lights and turn off others. You're going to go back in and see where the shading is different again. Okay? Why is that important? That's important, especially in the spiritual realm, especially if you're trying to detect beings, spiritual beings. Is something casting a shadow that it shouldn't be? Is there a shadow that shouldn't be there?
Right.
Okay? Your mind is going to start picking up on that and going, yep, right there, yep, right there, yep, right there, yep, right there. Then it's going to, again, now that energy is going to hit your auric field. It's going to get sent to Saturn. Saturn is going to do nothing but organize it and then send it up to Gemini, and Gemini is going to process it and go, well, we need to send this to a particular chakra because we got something in the room, we need to figure out what it is. Okay? But it gives you clues into doing that you don't generally have. Generally, we'll have them as children. We will have them. But as adults, we don't.
Right.
Okay? Because either somebody keeps telling us over and over and over again, that's not real. as kids and we learn to block it out,
We just, yeah, exactly. We get
Or-
conditioned as kids, yeah.
it's just survival.
Hmm.
Because what's more important, finding out if there's something that's casting a shadow in a room or not getting hit by a car when you cross the street?
Right.
And there's so much information coming in that your brain has to start
Right.
filtering it out. And all we're doing is retraining our brain.
Hmm.
Okay? You don't retrain your brain to the fact that you don't see the car coming down the street.
Right.
Okay? You just train it to pick these things up when you need them to,
Right.
and when it's important.
And that'll be part of, like, you can attune yourself to do that when you need to.
You can. Okay? And that's, again, part of the fundamental exercises. That's
Mhm.
what you're doing. Okay? And then when you learn your basic psychic level too. Okay? Now, the third part, okay, is where it gets a little weird. The third type of seeing when you go into a room is positive and negative space. Okay? Positive space would be like a wall. Anything on the wall would be, or no, negative space would be the wall. Positive space is anything that's on the wall. Okay? Chair's
Okay.
positive space. This in between the chair and the floor is negative space.
Mhm.
Again, trains you, is there something there that shouldn't be there? That should be negative space, but there's something positive, there's positive space there. So what's going on?
Mhm.
Those types of trainings, they work really well for people who do paranormal investigations. When you train yourself to do that. Because if you walk into a house and your brain will start picking things up that normally it wouldn't, and it wouldn't for most other people. And that's before stuff stops flying out of cupboards or, chairs move and all that good stuff that you see
Right,
in some
right,
of-
yeah. Yeah.
in some of the videos and stuff. Which some of them are true, some of them aren't. That's for you to decide. I'm not going to get into that. But I did do paranormal investigations for quite some time, and I do, the dark energy banishments and things of that nature. It comes in very handy.
Mhm.
Okay. For me, however, when mine developed with like a predatory aspect to it. So I just picked up on the negative stuff because that's what I was there to get rid of.
Mhm.
So I don't get a lot of Casper stuff when I do mine. Because my brain kind of goes, okay, this is a good thing. I don't need to really worry about that. Where's the next? Where's the dark stuff? Because that's what we need to get out of. I have friends though, spiritualists, who pick up on good energy, spirits and ghosts and things, and they give messages for that. And generally, my messages are either completely angelic, or I pick up on dark stuff. But that's kind of where mine is built, again, for survival
Right.
and what it needed at the time. I don't need Casper because I'm not there to banish Casper. I'm there to banish the stuff like in The Exorcist. I'm not there to do Casper stuff. And a lot of times when I get called in, it's because other people have gone and had issues,
Right.
problems, and those aren't Caspers. Those are something else.
Mhm.
So, but getting back to the sense enhancement, when you're working fire, you're working sight. So when you download the fundamentals, working fire is it's the first one that you do. And mainly it's the first one that you do because fire is over, again, the chakras. Chakras
Right.
are the closest energy points on your body to
Mhm.
anything else. If you do anything with the Kabbalah, the Sephiroth are not actually on your body. That's not how they really work them. It's a representation of the energy, is what you see. And working them in the trines and working them in the columns and all of that. And yes, you can move the energy down that way. But it's not exactly the same way. They're not vortexes of energy like the chakras work at. Okay? And we can debate that all, later for people who don't agree. Because, I'm not above debating things with people.
Right, right.
Okay? But from my studies and from the people I know that are seriously into the Kabbalah stuff and the old Jewish mysticism, that was the belief. Okay. Anyway, getting back to fire. Scientific association for fire is strong nuclear force because the four forces in nature do break down into the elements.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Again, strong nuclear is fire. Weak nuclear is water. Electromagnetic is air.
Mhm.
Gravitational is earth. Okay. That's how those break down. Okay. So we're talking strong nuclear force. And why? Well, strong nuclear force is bright, it burns, it's hot, it's heat. That's what it does.
Right.
And it projects out. I mean, It is so we know it's masculine. And then is it, well, is it air or is it earth? Well, air's dark. Nuclear energy is not dark. It's very bright. It's very blinding, okay? And it's very hot,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So that's why it's fire. All right, now, when we get into the other stuff, when we talk about, is it, it's a means to do, to transform to the other thing, okay? And we say that it's hot and dry. Those are things that you can feel. So when you're working fire, it's a good idea. We'll get to the exercises later, but that's the energy you're looking to work with, okay? And all you care about two-dimensionally are the power cycles at this point when you're working fire. That's it,
Mm-hmm.
okay? That's all we care about. It's when we work three-dimensional reality that fire gets really interesting for us, okay? And everything else does too. Because essentially, two-dimensional reality gets really awesome when you're working all the elements together. But alone, it's pretty simple.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in three-dimensional reality, we have heat is motion, and then we have momentum and direction. So, where is it going? Okay, and how much force is behind it.
Mm-hmm.
That's essentially what you're looking for. Okay. Now, water is contrary element to fire. Fire is also contrary element to earth, as earth is heavy, intangible, while fire is light and intangible. Okay. Fire is also what we call active.
Right.
Okay. You want it to do something. It's masculine. It's kinetic. Okay. And Plato gives three qualities to fire. Fire is bright, thin, and has motion. Okay. It is the only element in three dimensions that is bright.
Okay.
It's the only one that has light. Another reason it's the only one associated with color.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And again, because of the chakras and their associations with color, the way that they have it, that's why the chakras are so much fire.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because it's all about color. And without brightness, you don't have color. Because all color comes essentially from light, the light spectrum.
Right. Yes. Without
that, there's no point. And it's visual first.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other elements do come into play. Okay? And I've had people look at me weird and say, you can hear colors, you can taste colors, you can smell colors, you can feel colors. Okay? You're like, no, but they have done research on that with blind people who can tell color differences by touching it, by smelling it, and all of the other things at the same time. And I'm very sorry if you see a lot of sweat. We couldn't run the air conditioner because it made too much noise, and it's like 92 degrees outside.
Yes.
And we're in an upstairs apartment, so it means it's like 100 degrees in here probably right now.
It is quite warm. Yes.
Okay, so yeah, sorry about that, but I'm starting to do this because I'm getting a little sweat.
Yeah,
coming.
I can feel it.
Yep. So and if you see us starting to kind of go, oh, it's because the heat's affecting us too. So
Right.
okay. Now, astrology divides fire into three categories, right? Cardinal energy, fixed energy, mutable energy, which we just called personal, creative, and spiritual. So astrology, cardinal energy is all personal. Fixed energy is all creative. Mutable energy is all spiritual. Okay? And it's a better way of looking at the signs, and it's a better way of understanding what the signs are instead of Aries and it looks like a ram, Taurus it looks like a bull. It really has nothing to do with that. People looked up in the sky and went, this energy seems to last from here to here, and these fixed stars kind of resemble, well, this one's a ram, and then the next cycle it looks like a bull. And that's where you get that from. The energy is not flowing down from the star constellations. I've had numerous people think that. That's not where it comes from. What directs the energy are the planets. We get into that in Earth. Okay? But it's planets. It's not star constellations, so it has nothing to do with stars. This energy that we're talking about. Now, cardinal energy being personal, they're also protons. Okay? As far as matter is concerned. Now, I know I'm going to have to explain that one.
Yeah, we're going to have to get into the matter.
Periodic table of elements.
Yeah.
Okay. What determines the difference between one element on the table and another element on the table? It's the atomic.
It's the atomic number, which is the number of protons.
Yes. That is why it's considered personal.
Mm-hmm.
because it determines which element on the periodic table, and I hate to use that word, but that it's going to be.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Now, all creative energy is fixed. Okay. Why is that? Well, what are the and they're electrons. Well, what do the electrons do? The electrons aren't inside the nucleus. Okay.
No,
They're outside.
And they enable interaction between.
They enable interaction, but what else do? They attract, they build,
Right. Yeah.
they create matter.
Hmm.
Okay, that's their sole purpose. That's exactly what fixed energy does, being creative. So those are electrons. Mutable energy. Okay, spiritual energy. Neutrons. What is spiritual? Spiritual is zero, correct?
Yeah.
In math. Okay, so what is zero in math? Zero is not a number. It's absence that takes up space inside of an equation.
Yes.
Okay. Well, a neutron is a zero charge. Okay. We can talk about charge too. So then protons are positive charge, electrons are negative charge. Neutrons are absence of charge that take up space inside of a nucleus. And their
Right.
whole job is to make sure that the protons play well together.
Right. Yeah.
Because without them, one proton does not get along with another proton, even in the same nucleus. They just
Right.
don't.
Well, it's the neutron that balances out the strong nuclear force to hold the
Yes.
nucleus together.
There you go. Okay? And that's what they are. Okay? And that's what makes them spiritual, and that's what makes them mutable. Okay? They also do one other thing. Neutrons can change into protons. And they can change into what the next atomic or element's going to be. That makes them mutable.
Okay.
Because that's exactly what mutable energy does to cycles. It's for transforming it, completing and transforming into the next cycle,
Hmm.
which is exactly what neutrons do. So you can tie the qualities of astrology, cardinal, fixed, and mutable, with the basic elements of matter. Okay? Which makes it more, I don't know what the word is, kind of confirming that it's real.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, because a lot of your schools and texts don't get into that
Mhm.
aspect of it, but it also brings into the physics of it, and that's the
Right.
important part. The one thing that astrology does that no other science on the planet does is it ties spirituality into its scientific base,
Mhm.
and it says 1/3 of all matter is spiritual, and you can't leave that out.
Right.
And a lot of science leaves it out.
Mhm.
I worked with a physics professor for a while. We were going to write some papers on axiomatic metaphysics. But when I started talking about zero and what we just talked about as far as absence, he stopped talking to me. So
Oh,
that kind
wow.
of ended our thing.
Okay.
Yeah, didn't like zero, didn't like infinity, didn't like any of those things. But that's okay. Okay. Now, how does Plato break it down? We know that and Plato's breakdowns were the bright, thin, and motion. Okay, those are all Platonic. He writes considerably about that. Aristotle takes that and expands on it a bit. Okay. However, what else does Plato do? Plato breaks it down underneath our moon, all elements, and says all animals are fire,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
all plants are air, all metals are water, all crystals and stones are earth.
Okay.
And that's how they balance themselves out. Okay. So if fire is animals, then when you go into any church and you see them lighting candles, that has nothing to do with the fire energy of the room.
Mhm.
You're the fire energy of the room, and everybody else that's sitting there in the pews. That's why you're important.
Right. Yeah.
You're there to balance out the fire energy for the ceremony or ritual or whatever they're doing. That's the important part. Okay? So, okay, if all animals are inherently fire, animal totem energy is unbelievably important.
Mhm.
Because one thing that we did learn from Native Americans was how to work totem energy
Right.
and how important that was.
Yeah. You don't have to kill an animal to use
Right.
the energy.
Because the rest of the world was doing that.
Yeah.
You know, which is where you get Eye of Newt and Wing of Bat and all these things for these witches and the potions and stuff that you see on TV and things. And that's why, because they would kill the things and rip them apart and try to get the energy that way. Native Americans, however, gave us a way of doing the same thing, only with living animals. Okay, and it's more of a cooperation
Right. Yeah.
rather than a killing and controlling it. Not to mention it works better
Mhm.
because the energy is still alive.
Right. Right.
And being alive is, again, fire,
Mm-hmm.
because it's your spirit also. So what does that mean? Okay, it's your drive, it's your passion, but it's your spirit. And I don't mean spirit just as, you know, oh my God, I saw this guy's spirit. It's a ghost. Is that part of it? Yeah. But I'm talking to like spirit with, I've got spirit, yes I do. I've got spirit, how about you?
Right. Yeah.
That spirit. Okay? He's lost his spirit.
It's
Okay?
drive, will, ambition. Yeah.
Right.
All of that.
And that's what happened to a lot of people.
Mm.
Especially people that worked labor jobs when they retire.
Yeah.
They lose their drive.
Right.
That was their drive. Was getting up, going to work, doing their thing, doing this, doing that, following the same routine,
Yeah. Yeah.
habit, moving, motion. What happens? They
Once
kill
the
the motion.
Once
They
the
do
routine's
this
gone,
and
yeah.
watch TV. And then their body breaks down and they expire quickly.
Right.
And that's why. They lost their spirit, their will. And fire is also will.
Mm-hmm.
It is your will. Again, without fire, you can do nothing at all. It's so important. Okay? Now, animals subcategorically break down into the other elements. I want to get that out of the way real quick. Okay? All mammals are fire, subcategorically. All birds are air. All cold-blooded animals are water.
Mm.
Okay? All insects are earth. That's the breakdown. And then subcategorically, they also break down. So moles would be considered fire, mammal.
Okay. Yeah.
But also subcategorically under that, earth, because they burrow into the ground.
Right. Right.
Okay? Those are, and all that's important when you're working with their energy, to know what energy you're actually working with, what you want to get out of it, before you get into the actual just attributes of that particular animal.
Mm.
Which again is fire because it's personal to that particular animal. Okay? So, that's where we're at. Okay? So working with totems is a major part of working fire. Okay? You start with a personal totem. Personal totem is energy that's inherently you. Okay? It's not your sun, because your sun actually has a totem energy connected to it. And
Right.
all of the chakras do, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the sun would be connected to your solar plexus. However, because the solar plexus is your essence, okay, and you radiate it out, your personal totem is like the totem that covers everything before your chakras hit.
Right. Right.
Their totems. Okay? It's one that's going to be with you for your life. Forever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And they can be broad. They don't have to be specific. Usually, chakra totems are specific.
Mhm.
So let's say the owl. Okay, we have an owl here.
Right.
Let's
right.
say the owl comes up as your personal totem. That could be all owls, energy. Okay, the short owl, the great owl. There's so many different owls. The barn owl, the barred owl. There's tons of different ones.
Right. Right.
So you've got all of these owls, and you can use and all of that energy is part of your personal totem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If it was a chakra, it would usually be one of those.
Right.
So then one of your totems may come up and say, well, the short ear owl is mine.
Right.
Okay, or the screech owl is mine. For this one, but no other owl, just that one. Where somebody's personal totem could be all of them. So just to get that clear. Okay, and that's the first one you want to work with, because it's going to be the most potent for you to understand your behavior towards everything of the outside world.
Right. Right.
Okay, and why you behave certain ways,
Mm-hmm.
and what that means. And that's what the animal tells you. That's what that means. And it's about how you express, how you behave It's like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. And then instead of trying to curb your behavior, you understand how to utilize that behavior to your benefit by understanding how the animal does it.
Okay.
So you can't change the behavior, but what you can do is change how the behavior affects your relationship with the outside world, and expresses how you, and changes how you express energy to the outside world. That's very important. The next one's going to be a dream totem,
Right.
okay? And that's going to be an animal too, okay? Your dream totems are huge, okay? Because that's what they tell you, how your dreams behave, how you behave in dreams, and how they do, okay? And I'll give you a little bit of, I'll give you mine, okay? Mine is the black jaguar, black panther, okay? It's not the African one, it's the jaguar from South America.
Right, yeah.
Okay? So, what does that mean as far as dreams go? That means that when I am having a dream, a lot of the times I observe what's happening in my dream. Like from the out. Like I'm up watching. And that's exactly how panthers work. And a lot of my dreams are at night. And it doesn't mean, I'm not talking about daydreams as opposed to dreaming when you're asleep. I'm talking about when I'm dreaming, a lot of the times it's a nightscape that I'm seeing.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I do have dreams where it's light out, but a lot of those times too, I'm in the shadow somewhere. I'm not right out. And again, it's because being black, that animal sticks out at night, or in the daytime, and in the night it does not. Or other ones are just the opposite. So, and a lot of them observe the environment around them before they act or express. So a lot of my dreams are that way. I have a friend it's a lion. It's a male lion. And he is always the center of attention in his dreams. Everything is centered around him. And that's because of the lion's energy as opposed to mine.
Right.
Okay? So I can't do that. Even if you get into lucid dreaming where you're conscious, you're not going to be able to change that type of behavior. Or else you're not going to get out of your dream what you need and what you want, because you're trying to change behavior that's inherently attached to you.
Right.
You can't do that. Okay? And that's the second one. And then after you get those totems and work those totem energies, what you're going to end up doing, and you do that with the dream totems by keeping a dream journal. And as soon as you wake up, just write down anything that comes. Sometimes you're going to read back and go, what? I have no idea what this even means. After a while, you get better at it. And the more you work it, you're going to start waking up before your alarm goes off, because the jolt will screw up your retention of the dream. Okay? And you want to do it as soon as you wake up, so keep it next to your bed, because at about 30 seconds after you wake up, you start losing anything, your recall for whatever was happening in your dream, and it starts to go away. And then you're like, well, I had a dream about this, and you remember this little bit of it, but nothing else. And the more you do it, the more you end up writing down. Okay? I had one weird dream, because we were doing dream journal stuff in a class I was taking.
Okay, yeah.
And I have no idea still what this dream was about. I mean, what it meant. But it was like a beehive, right? But it was a giant beehive, and there were mallard ducks in it. No idea. And it was in Technicolor, like I was watching a cartoon. And I'm watching these things and I still don't know what that, but it was vivid, man. It was vivid. And there was, I don't know if it was honey, but they had something going on, and no idea. But hey, I wrote that one out, and everybody was just kind of staring at me in the class like, what is wrong with this guy? What a weird dream that was. Sorry. But there'll be times where your dreams are black and white. There are going to be times when your dreams are in color. There'll be times when your dreams are in Technicolor. I mean, and it's all about what you need. Okay?
Right.
And again, getting back to colors, dreams are two-dimensional. A lot of the times when we see colors in two-dimensional reality, they're the opposite color of what we want or what was needed. Because when you work color charts, the first thing you'll notice is when you start working the color charts and focusing on them and then go next to them, which is what you do, to try to, and you see a color next to them on a white wall, it'll be the opposing color that you would see in a color wheel. It's strange. After you work them long enough, that stops. But a lot of times in two-dimensional reality, the color you're seeing is actually the opposite color that you need to work with. And most people don't understand that either.
Okay.
It happens. And you can actually find those color demonstrations online through the computer. They can work faster than posters, but
Right.
I think the results from the posters are much better because you don't get the electric,
Right. You
you
don't
don't
have
get
you
the
don't
field
have the
energy coming out of your television.
electromagnetic
looking at it, yeah.
interference. Yeah.
But they do work. You still get that same, because it'll keep the color for 30 seconds and then it goes white. And then you end up seeing the oppositional color.
Right.
Okay, I mean, it's neat. And you can find it on a lot of artistic sites when they talk about colors and wheels and they do all the breakdowns for you for like an art class and things. Okay. That's the important part of fire. Okay. And when we start breaking it down even further, okay, everything breaks into fire. Okay, we have the 4 cardinal winds. Okay, if you know anything about the seraphim angels,
Right. Yeah.
there are 4 seraphim princes. Okay.
Yeah.
Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Uriel. Right?
Right.
Uriel is associated with the south, and the south is associated with fire. Okay. As a seraphim, he's associated with the south. As an archangel, he's associated with something different. But the archangels are the second lowest in the hierarchy. Seraphim is at the highest. So that's why I'm bringing that up. But what do? What's one of the major duties of the seraphim princes is to hold the
back
4
that.
cardinal winds so they don't come in and destroy everything and all life. Okay. Well, notice is the wind that's associated with fire, and it's the one Uriel holds back. Okay. So the 4 cardinal
Okay.
winds, notice is fire. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. When it comes to plants, all plants break down into 4 elements, even though they're all inherently air. Okay. The seeds, okay, the ones that propagate life, are associated with fire. That's fire. Okay. Gold and iron. Okay. I don't really associate iron myself. A lot of the books do. I don't. I throw it out there because a lot of the books do. I disagree with that. Gold, yes. Pyrite, yes. Okay. Those I associate with fire. And bronze is also one that I associate with fire.
That makes sense.
You know,
Well, it's an alloy
do.
made in the fire, so.
Yeah. So, the problem that I have with iron is it's too heavy. It's one of the heaviest metals.
Right. Yeah,
And
I was
it's
gonna
dark.
say, yeah, it's one of the
And
heaviest.
the
naturally
properties
occurring.
just aren't there for me
Yeah.
with that one. But, so gold, pyrite, bronze, energies of metals, okay? Within animals, we all break down
Mhm.
into these. And yes, I'm using notes. So I glance over at the TV. I mean, I can't memorize all this stuff. Okay, so fire is the vital spirit of all animals. Okay? That's where fire is in us.
Mhm.
Okay? Now, again, all animals are inherently fire. Okay? The vital spirit, life, whatever you want to call that.
Yeah.
That's the fire energy. Earth would be the bones, water are the humors, the 4 liquids that run through the body. Okay, and the air is the flesh.
Mhm.
Okay, so fire energy, the cardinal humors of the body is color. It is hot and dry. Okay, it is yellow bile.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and if you don't know what the humors of the body are, you should, especially if you're into healing,
Mhm.
because it goes back to Hippocrates and the elements split into the 4 humors, and it's a balancing of the 4 humors of the body in anybody that causes a complete and total healing. Okay, and they're not balanced out 25%, 25%, 25%, 25%. Okay, that's not how it works. You have to break down somebody's astrological chart to figure out what they are.
Okay.
Lilly has one of the best formulas. Lilly was an astrologer a long time ago. He has one of the best humor breakdowns I've ever seen. That's the one I use when I do mine.
Okay.
And then, once your 4 cardinals are done, there are three what they call spirit humors. And once the cardinals balance, those three spirit humors balance, and then you get a spiritual healing at the same time.
Oh,
And that's
nice.
the whole point
Okay.
of doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay? Okay. So, within the soul, understanding is considered fire. Okay? Within the senses, we've talked about that, sight's fire. Within actions, a fierce, quick, and angry disposition is fire. Okay? Again, ruled by Mars.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay?
So
Within the
here,
heavens,
understand.
fire is heat without burning. Okay?
Heat without. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And again, within the heavens, the planets that are associated with fire are Sol and Mars, so the sun and Mars. Okay? We've talked about the signs, which are fires. The angelic orders of fire are the seraphim and the virtues. Okay? And powers. So there's three. Okay? The infernal river of fire is Phlegethon. Of course, nobody knows. Most people have never heard of Phlegethon, and you won't unless you read certain books. Okay?
Oh, it's one of the underworld
Yeah.
rivers, right?
Yes, it is.
It's
But
for-
most people aren't
Yeah.
know Styx. They know the river Styx.
Well,
And that's
yeah.
about the only one they know.
Well, that's where you get the boatman.
Yes, Charon,
Yes.
yes. But Phlegethon is one of those. There are four
Right.
of them.
Yes. There are four.
Okay.
It forms one of the borders, and you
Yep.
can't cross it.
And then biblically, there's a mention of hellfire and the lake of fire. I think
Yeah.
anybody who's read the Bible knows the lake of fire one. You're going to burn in the lake of fire.
Which there's a misconception with
Yes.
that too.
Yes, there is.
Association with the lake of fire and hell, and they're not one and the same.
No, they're not. Hell is not the lake of fire.
Right.
By any means at all. No. Okay? In the angels themselves, their love is a shining fire.
Okay.
Okay? Now, let's talk about some of the properties of fire. Okay? Because if you're going to work with it, you have to know what it is and what you're looking for. Okay?
Right,
So
yeah.
I'm going to give some key words associated, positive and negative. Okay? Positive expressions of fire: animation, energy, courage, motivation, initiation, spontaneity, joy, inspiration, passion, penetration, assertion. It's active, it's bright, it's boundless, okay, and it's passion. Okay? Those are some of the major,
Again, Mars. A lot of Mars energy.
a lot of Mars and Sun.
Yeah.
Okay? Negative expressions of fire: insensitive, egotistical, tactless, selfish, opportunistic, willful, overpassionate, no self-control, over-emotional, rash, violent, impulsive, haste, destructive, and intolerant. Okay? And egotistical.
Aries.
And the Sun.
Yeah.
Again,
Right.
a lot of those are associated with those.
Mhm.
Okay? That's what we're looking, those are key words for dealing with fire.
Right.
Are there more? There are many more than that.
Well, the list would be almost
You would have to, and you have to go through, because fire is masculine,
right.
you have to go through all the masculine characteristics.
Right.
And then you have to figure out whether you're dealing with personal, creative, or spiritual. Because there are attributes associated with all of those
Mhm.
that have to be factored in. Then you have to determine which one of those you're looking at, and then figure out, well, which ones of the are about expression, because that's your fire. Which ones are about sensitivity? That's your water. Which ones are about interaction? That's your air. Which ones are about substance? That's your earth. Okay? And that's how you can break those down. Okay? The best way to understand any of those is working sign energy. How do you work sign energy? Moon ceremonies.
Right.
Because you're pulling it in during a new moon, and that's all you're doing, is pulling in the new moon energy, because it's at the same degree that the sun is. They're working together. Okay? You can try to do a solar sun, okay, ceremony. Problem is, you stand in the sun, you get sunburned.
Right. It is way too much.
Moon,
energy.
you're never gonna get a moon burn ever.
Right. Right.
Okay, the moon dilutes it. It also, instead of being completely projective, it makes it more passive and not as direct when it comes in. It's not too much to handle.
Right. Right.
That's perfect because you pulled into your third eye.
Well, exactly. It's your brow
Okay.
chakra. It's what
Your
you're
third
gonna be
eye is
feeling
going to
it.
do what then? What's it going to do? It's going to do the same thing that everything else does. Okay?
Mhm.
It's going to shove it right down into Saturn. Saturn's going to
Right.
organize it, or it's going to shove it up to Mercury, and Mercury's going to disseminate it
Right.
everywhere it needs to go. Okay? But your moon is how you feel, and you want to feel it. That's the whole point of doing those.
Mhm.
But it's the best way to understand the sign energy, or any energy, is to pull it in through moon ceremonies. Okay?
Right. Right.
And that also connects you to particular celestials.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And when you're working just chakra energy, those celestials are called the Ameshaspentas, and that's the order you want.
Right.
Okay? Okay. Zoroastrianism gave us those. And that's who you work with. They are associated with each chakra. They are not associated with the Kabbalah Sephiroth. They are not associated with planets. They are only duty is
It's
chakras.
It's the chakras.
Okay?
So they're not part of the hierarchies yet either.
No. Well, not the personal hierarchies, no.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't. They're not associated with those at all because they don't have all of these other duties that they have to perform, which the
Right.
hierarchies do.
Yeah.
Okay? And there's not hundreds of them. There is enough to work your chakras. Right? And then you're good. When it comes to that. But in order to work any spiritual energy, they have to be connected to a celestial. You have to pull them through a celestial. That's what animates the energy.
Right.
Otherwise, it's dead. It's like dead energy, and you're not going to get anything from it.
Mm-hmm.
You need to pull it from the celestial to you.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And when you first start working with fire, you only want fire. So you only want chakras, so those are the ones you work. There are other angels that are associated with those energy points. However, okay, they're also associated with planets. They're associated with Sephiroth. The Ameshaspentas are the only ones that are only chakras. That's who you want to work with in the beginning. Because you truly want to understand those centers and that energy only,
Right.
without the planetary influence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then later on you work with the other ones and you move into another element. Okay, that's what moon center energy is all about. Now, we talked about the new moon energy, pulling that energy in. Okay. Then what happens? Then the moon cycles.
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple
Now-
months later, yeah.
You have some advanced people out there that try to work moon energy because the moon, as it's moving up or waxing its way up, okay, to the full moon, changes signs every 2 days, approximately. And then what happens? Then they'll be like, well, yeah, every 2 days you pull in the next sign energy, yeah, right? Until the full moon. And then during the full moon, you are in the oppositional sign of the new moon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, what do we know about oppositions? They are not true polarities, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay? They will share the same gender.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So there's a part of them that works well together. When you hit the oppositional sign, it's about releasing the negative aspects of the opposing sign, because it's the negative aspects that do not work with the positive aspects of the new moon.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay? It's like, there we go. Here's your blockage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Here's where we're going to cause many problems. You're going to see them in other people, which is why jails fill up, hospitals fill up, mental institutions fill up during full moons.
Right.
Okay? And that's why. It's that oppositional energy. So you're going to release all of those negative aspects of that full moon energy. And now you're going to have people that are going to start asking, yeah, but you can charge crystals and stones in the full moon. It's still projective. It's reflecting the sun. True. So as soon as you're done releasing that negative aspect, you pull in the positive aspects of that sign. Okay? Because both being masculine or feminine, they work well together.
It's
And they
gonna
magnify
amplify
the
it
new,
together, yeah. Yeah.
they magnify the new moon energy
Mm-hmm.
that you pulled in already. Okay? That's the whole point.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay? Now, interestingly enough, we have two angelic beings that are associated with the moon to release too. And I'm only bringing this up not because I want to talk about planets and the moon, but because we're talking about releasing and pulling in sign energy. So you release the energy to Sandalphon.
Sandalphon, yeah.
He can take it. Okay. He's going to take that energy and he's going to do whatever he wants with it. He's going to recycle it, however, whatever he's going to do.
Right.
You don't even have to worry about it. Just release it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about where it's going or what it's doing. That's out of your control, so forget about it. Okay? Then, the Shekinah is the one that's going to bring in the new energy.
Right.
Okay? Both of those beings are associated with the moon. Both of them are considered just as powerful as the other.
Right.
And that's how
Well,
you work
that's
the moon.
they're both, because it's associated with the moon, they're associated with the divine feminine.
Right. Well, they're associated with the divine feminine, but there's a masculine aspect because the moon, especially during a full moon, is a reflection of the sun and it's projecting. That's masculine.
Right. Yeah.
It's bright. There's a masculine tone to it.
Right.
And the difference between a new moon is it's completely dark
Mm-hmm.
because it's right next to the sun, so you're not seeing anything.
Right.
Full moon you are, and that's where Sandalphon comes in. It has nothing to do with the new moon. That's all Shekinah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But again, they're associated with planets. That's why we don't work them on the chakras. Okay? Okay? Now, you need to learn the glyphs for the signs when you're working fire too. All of them.
Right.
It's the first part of learning astrology, and you have to learn astrology because it's the basis for spiritual physics. There really isn't another good one out there. Okay. Okay, now, let's talk about chakras, shall we? Because that's the next thing you're going to hit. You start with the moons, learning the moon cycles. Then you're going to hit the chakras. Okay, and I'm not going to be able to get into the chakras because we're almost at an hour, and that's where we were going to cut off our long videos.
I think,
So,
yeah, I think
fire is going to go into chakras next,
It
and
is,
the aura. Okay? And we haven't even gotten into practical exercises for working anything yet.
Right. Yep. And then we
This
have
is just an
to
explanation.
touch the.
Practical comes at the end.
Yeah.
And you're going to get exercises to work with fire energy in 1, 2, and 3-dimensional reality.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You're going to get working with, well, you won't get that in the video. We're not going to do this. But if you go to the website and sign up and start doing classes and things, all of the chakras, animal totals for each chakra. You're going to get your personal. You're going to get your dream. You're going to learn how to do your dream journal. You're going to start working all these things. You're going to be working the fundamentals, which you can go to the website and download.
Right. Yep.
Okay, and you can start that now. They're spiritual calisthenics. That's what I call them.
Right.
If this was basketball, this would be learning how to dribble, how to pass, how to shoot free throws, how to do layups.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, and essentially defense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Also, this is where you start to learn protection.
Right.
And not just in protection. You learn protection, lower banishing ritual pentagram. You learn empowerment.
Right.
Lower empowerment ritual pentagram, which most things don't teach that. Okay? You're going to learn the banishing ritual of the hexagram. Okay? Then you're going to learn the empowerment ritual of the hexagram. Okay? All mainly two-dimensional. Doesn't go with you.
Right.
It creates a circle of energy around you. You break the circle, it's gone. You got to do it over again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but it works real well, and you have to learn those before you can learn three-dimensional protection because it requires knowing two-dimensional protection in order to create three-dimensional protection. Because what you're going to end up doing, are you're going to create three-dimensional pyramids utilizing the hexagrams and the pentagrams. And you're going to create pyramids and tetrahedrons, and you're going to create the platonic solids.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And the first one you're going to do when you get out of fire at the end is create the what we call the Merkaba shell, which are two tetrahedrons connected to each other.
Right.
Okay. For empowerment and protection at the same time in one shape.
Mm-hmm.
Every platonic solid after that, you're going to do a banishing one for protection and an empowerment one. Okay? But it's not too different. It's the same one. You're just protecting the energy first and then empowering the solid when you're done.
Right.
Okay. The Merkaba, you're actually taking two tetrahedrons and making something completely different shape.
Right.
Okay. And the Merkaba, I call it the Merkaba shell because the Merkaba itself, once you create it, all of the other platonic solids exist inside the Merkaba shell. And you can look that up online and find it.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see how interesting it is when you look at them because they're three-dimensional.
Right.
It's really
right,
interesting. It's kind of hard to see them. Okay. And like we talked about the senses and stuff, you'll get that in the fundamentals. And again, you can start working those. But you don't actually get working with the other stuff yet. Okay. And how to work with it and what you need to go, where you need to go, how you need to work it, how you need to bring the energy and what you're looking to feel.
Right.
And how to do it. You get that at the end. Okay. But I don't want to keep going on and on and on because I have a tendency to do that.
Right. Absolutely.
So, we're going to end this one for today.
All right.
Thank you so much
Yes. Thank you
for
for
joining us.
Yes.
Okay, and I will give it over to you.
All right. Indeed. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to see you for the next one when we continue Fire. Do remember to like and subscribe.